Yeah. Okay, so let's see. How about with not more than a minute each, actually even less, maybe like 30 seconds, just pop, not quite popcorn style, just go around and say your name and your company and maybe one thing you'd like to learn or share related to conventions tonight. And so when you finish, just give that briefly. And then when you finish, just go around and look around and choose someone who hasn't gone yet and just call on them. It's cool if you know them, cool if you don't know them. So I am not going to start actually because I don't feel like talking more. I'm going to call on, let's see, Amy. I would love to hear from you.
Hi. Hi, everyone. I'm Amy Bayo. I run Pink Tiger Games, and I have never been to a convention before. Oh, there's my dog. As a person showing games, so I'm very excited.
Amy, click your megaphone button so everyone in the room can hear you.
Sorry, thank you. I forgot. I'm Amy. I run Pink Tiger Games, and I've never, been to a convention before where I've shown my games. So very excited.
Cool. And you want to go ahead and call on someone? Oh, and I'm sorry, actually, one thing. I forgot to say, I made this a little too publisher centric. I apologize. When you go around, say what, if you're a publisher, say what kind of games you focus on after you mention your company. If you're a retailer, you're welcome to say if your store has a focus. But the most important thing is just one thing you'd like to learn about. And if you don't have anything you'd like to learn, then one thing you'd like to share about conventions tonight. So just for Gwen and Sam's sake as well, and anyone else who just came on. Okay, Amy, you want to choose someone to call on?
Sure. Should I mention I do social conversation party games? So that's me. Yeah. Federico, go for it.
Hello. So
megaphone, use your megaphone.
Megaphone. Thank you for the reminder. Federico here. I'm the founder of Joyful Mathematics, which kind of makes the obvious that I make math games, but trying to destigmatize math through like authentically fun games, because all games have math in them, logic and structure and strategy. And so the conferences I've been to, which is probably the most similar to a convention, are some of like the math education and just I was a teacher and curriculum specialist for about 20 years. And so that's my experience being in things like expos and such for educational conferences that you've probably never heard of unless you're a teacher, NCTM and such. So I don't even know who's here. So just call on someone.
Yeah, and as a reminder, we're just sharing your name, your company, if you have a specialty, like what kind of games or other products you focus on, and then one thing you want to either learn or share tonight. So, and actually, that's a lot, but like it's good for people to get to know each other too, because not everybody's been to one of these yet. So, yeah, go for it, Federico.
Cool. Yeah, and I'm definitely excited to learn about, GAMA specific, and being a publisher at a convention, how to put your best foot forward. So I'm just like have so much to learn. So I'm excited to learn anything and everything. I guess I'll go with the person closest to me, Susie, if you're willing to share.
Sure. Hi. Thanks, everyone. My name is Susie. This is my first time on one of these calls. Molly, you're awesome. And everyone, thank you for organizing. My game is called Party Freud. It's a card game for people who probably need therapy. I'm really new. I just completed my Kickstarter campaign in May. It's like a conversational humor game about things, that just release and support each other through fictional neuroses and all that stuff. And I would love to learn about how much time I would need to allocate to preparing for a convention, and how much money I would need to set aside to set up like the babyest, smallest, most beginner-esque display. Thanks. Oh, and I would love to hear from, Miles, please.
Hey everyone, got a cat with me. My name is Miles. I own Puddletown Games and Puzzles in Portland, Oregon. And I am super excited that the holidays are over so I can get back to actually getting mentored by Phil, who we had a terrific first meeting and I just haven't had a chance to, talk to him again recently, but I'm excited to do that. My big thing for tonight is I just want to know what day to show up at the convention. I probably can't take the full week off, so maybe finding out what the best day to show up is would be great. Let's hear from Gwen and Sam. I don't think they've been heard from yet.
Hi.
Hey.
This is our first time doing something like this. So
we're both in the same bubble, which is a little strange. So sorry about that we're both half cut off. But yeah, we're Runaway Parade Games. We make Fire Tower and hopefully other things in the future. And we're a publisher and we've been going to conventions for quite a while.
Yeah, for about, I guess, 3 or 4 years now. And we've done it on many different levels. So when we started out, we were doing the, trying to only show up for a day or two, like you were saying, or just doing it on a really low budget. So we definitely have had experience with that, but also how to expand and grow over time. So excited to talk about all that with you guys.
Right. And I don't know who has gone and who hasn't. Molly, who should we call on?
How about anyone anyone above you or below you, in fact.
How about I go?
All right, how about Kurt?
There we go. Hey guys, good to see you.
Hi.
Hi, I'm Kurt Covert. I'm the owner of Smirk and Dagger Games, and my company's been around since 2003 and published a bunch of games. And honestly, I think the best thing to say about conventions is that our industry really is all about community. So conventions are a great way to foster that community and our relationships. And that's true of consumer shows as well as trade shows. And honestly, I think, it took me a few GAMAs to really understand, that I shouldn't be afraid to go and say hello to people, whether they be a distributor or another owner of a company or whomever. This is exactly that time to go and shake someone's hand, introduce yourself and say hi and find out what they're about and, introduce yourself. So I encourage you to do that. All right. Oh, and let's see, Phil, over to you.
Hi, everyone. I'm Phil Lacefield Jr. I am currently the buyer for Noble Knight Games in Madison, Wisconsin. We're probably the largest game store in the United States at 55,000 square feet and 10 plus million last year. We're doing all right. So this is my 28th year professionally working in the business, and last year would have been my 36th consecutive Gen Con. I hadn't missed one since 1985 until last year, and I've had a booth at every one of them since 1994. So my wife and I own JB and Press, and we did lots and lots of cons as well. I generally do 15 or 20 cons a year when I'm out there, and I've seen some stuff. So ask me anything you like. Also, the 3 words I want you to take away from any of this: demos sell games. We should all have that tattooed right here across our forehead. Demos sell games, and a con is simply the best place to do that. So ask me about that again later, and we'll discuss. Oh, and let's hear from, who's hiding out up there? Desiree. How about you, Des? Oh, she jumped over. All right, you're up, ma'am. How about it?
Desiree, you're blocking Kurt, but you can't tell.
Sorry. That's funny. I was just writing down your comment, Phil. So I'll go. Can you all hear me?
Yes.
You can hear me. Okay, great. Hi, everybody. My name is Desiree Vaughn, and I created a card game called Dub This. It's all about musical connections, so you can mix and match any song after hearing the last word or the word or phrase on the card. So I created that game because I love music, and I love to see how people connect and learn about each other through music. So I guess you could say my game is a party game, but I like to say it's a little more than that. I'm learning to see that. And I guess for conventions, I guess I just want to know kind of what to expect, but also how to create this experience. I know that was talked about last time, but how to create this experience where people want to engage in the demo for the game, like Phil was talking about, but also want to know more about it. So thank you. I guess I can call on, let me look at the list. James.
Oops, hi, everyone. My name is James Takanaka, and I'm the director of Hit Point Sales. We're a consolidator in the industry, and we work with small publishers to help them sell into wholesale distribution. And I guess I am looking to learn about everyone's promotions and things that they will try running at GAMA, and find out what kind of success they've had in previous things. And let's see, has Dion gone?
No. Nope. All right. Hey, everybody. I'm Dion Mixon. I'm a graphic designer in Detroit, and I'm founder of Design Eye, which is the world's premier graphic design education board game. So I created Design Eye to educate all youth, but particularly youth of color, about graphic design so that hopefully they pursue careers into the design field and increase diversity in the design industry. And I'm looking forward to learning more how to master or just get better at Phil's 3-piece combo, demo, sell, and game. And of course, learning everything I can at the convention. I've only been to one convention in Yukon, which is in Ypsilanti, Michigan. That was about 2 years ago. And I met with Omari Akio, who is the creator of Rap Gods. Thanks. Now I'll call on, let's see, I got Susie. Miles. Did somebody already call Miles? Or?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm sorry.
All right. Sorry. All right, John Stacy. Oh.
Myself here. Hi, thank you. I'm John Stacy. I'm Executive Director of GAMA. I want to welcome you all. Looking forward to meeting you all at Expo in a few weeks. And I'm coming tonight just to learn more about the program and to see what we can do to help you have a successful Expo. We've got a few things lined up for you guys while you're on site in Reno, but I want to figure out how we can best serve you, the fellows, as well as all of our publisher and all of our retail members. So I'm sure to listen and to learn and to welcome you all to the network. And so I am going to call on, let's see, is it Susie? Have you spoken yet?
I already went. Yeah. Thank you, though.
Try one more person, John.
Okay. Let's see. I've got, let's see.
Maybe take a volunteer.
Yes, I'm trying to think who's still here. I'm seeing like, that does look like they're part of the team here. I've got, Andrew hasn't introduced himself yet, has he?
Yeah, there you
Andrew, there he is.
Yep.
Hey, I remember the megaphone. I'm Andrew Zarwitz. I own Foam Brain Games. We make dice and we go to a lot of conventions. In the past 12 years, we've done probably just under 1,000 conventions. So it's a lot of them. And I'm excited to be here, and I'm excited to hopefully talk a little bit about what makes successful booths and what like kind of logistical backing goes into having the most successful event. Participation. I also run the Pin Bazaar pin trading program at the at Origins, what GAMA shows. And why not the other Andrew?
Always the second Andrew. Hey everybody, I'm Andrew Chesney. I'm COO of Chip Theory Games. We specialize in heavy strategy board games, heavy in every sense of the word. I think I've spoken a lot about all the different conventions and things I've been to. I'm most looking forward to understanding again what new publishers are looking to get out of a successful trade show or a successful convention in general. going back to the roots of, is it just a networking exercise? Is it a sales exercise? Is it a, getting in touch with distributors and things like that? I really would like to, and I don't know if everybody knows that the answer to that yet. So perhaps that's just something that we can try and identify over the coming weeks. But I think it's very easy for established companies to just look at the sales numbers and the marketing exercises that we can do in terms of sponsorship. But understanding what on the ground floor when you're looking to do it, it's like, is it just a case of meet 6 or 10 distributors and pick 1 or 2, or is it a case of you want to actually sell some units? So understanding that would be excellent. And I have no idea who's left because I can't move my screen to check all the other ones. So Molly, back to you.
Yeah, I got it. I'll go. So I'm Molly. I'm the head of Flying Leap Games. We make creative.
Megaphone, Molly.
Don't you love it when you don't do the thing that you try to teach others to do? That's great. See, now you can feel comfortable making all sorts of mistakes. You're welcome. Totally intentional. I'm Molly. I'm the head of Flying Leap Games. We make just creative, weird party games with quirky sense of humor. Like I'm sure many of you can feel the pain of. Our latest one has been at port for a month and a half or so. Woohoo! And let's see. I really want to share, gosh, so many things. I think about conventions in particular, I'm excited for our panelists tonight to share, and some of you know that's why this is, I think some of you know this is why you were invited, for y'all to share how to really make the look and feel of a booth just exciting, feel like there's a theme and feel like the parts are really integrated. And so how to draw people in because your booth just looks unusual and unique and beautiful. And I'm not going to shout them out yet. I'll wait on that. I am going to call now on Camellia.
Hi, everyone. I am Cornelia Weather-Smith. I am the co-founder of Brilliant RBS, which is a party game that I started with my husband, Nick Smith, who is also here. Our company is Kim for the Win. And I'm also one of the team members for the Horizons Fellowship program, as well as for the Rising Stars program. So I'm excited to see everyone here tonight and learn a lot more about conventions because believe it or not, we've actually never been to a convention, and GAMA Expo will be our first one. So I'm here to learn like everyone else. And let's see, I will ping it to, I'm not sure who hasn't gone yet. So if anyone wants to volunteer who hasn't gone yet.
Get to call on your husband.
Oh, Nick hasn't gone. Okay, so Nick Smith. Okay.
If he's not available, we can hold out. Has anyone else? Oh, go ahead, Phil.
No, is he even in here? I don't see Nick.
Yeah, he's here. He's the Brilliant RBS.
Oh, there. Oh, hi, Nick.
Yeah, no worries. If he's busy, we'll come back. So actually, I want to start because I did invite them for the reason I mentioned about look and feel of booth. I do want to start with the big question, and I'm going to actually, I won't do this a lot tonight. Usually people can just volunteer, but I'm going to center on Gwen and Sam and call y'all out right now because other than, being awesome colleagues and really good friends I wish I still lived near, Sam and Gwen are just, for me, one of the gold stars in how to create a booth that just looks really great. And we actually talked about it on the last call. So some of you, I think only a couple fellows were there, but some of you have heard about this before. This is a chance for Rising Stars and Fellows tonight to learn, any number of things I put in the chat and beyond to do with the, to do with conventions. But I want to actually start with how to make the look of your booth exciting. And again, maybe along a theme, because that is the first thing people see and it will draw you in. And so sorry to put you on the spot a little, but it's for a good reason. If you feel comfortable starting out, I'd love for you two to start with, and then for others to of course, join in after and add different things or piggyback on what y'all are sharing. So yeah, please go for it.
Thanks for the huge compliment.
There's a lot of people here with like decades more experience than us, so, which is a little daunting, but we'll try to just say what's worked for us.
Yeah, so we've been going to conventions. Yeah, thanks a lot, Molly. we've been going to conventions for a few years, and our game Fire Tower is the first one we made. We also recently kickstarted an expansion. When we first started out, I think we went to, the first con we went to was called Total Con, which is in Massachusetts. It's got about 2,000 people. And we didn't even know anything about anything. We didn't know that people would play games with us. We thought they would just like look at our game and decide whether or not they cared about it or not. We had no idea what we were doing. And somebody sat down, I think it was like one of the people who ran the con was just like, so can we play a game? We're like, oh, yes, we can do that. So we've sort of been learning the hard way, but through, as Kurt said, there's an incredible community. People are always sharing ideas and sort of giving you feedback on what you can do better, not just the people who are attending the con, but other designers and publishers. So we've relied heavily on that.
Yeah, and I'd say just like, it being our first game and not being a company that anyone has known, it's always been crucial to us to create a booth that kind of pulls people into the world of the game, whether that is like highlighting some components in the game and making something in the booth out of them, or even just the components on the game themselves. You can almost get people kind of self-select into the type of game you have. And you can kind of like show like how serious the game is and what the feel around it is by designing the booth around that. And, without just being able to draw things in, you really do need that. You need people to just be interested enough to be like, a lot of people would come up to us and say, oh, well, your booth's really cool. Well, I'd also like to hear about this game. And it's like, you just have to get to that point where they care enough to ask what you have there.
So for us, our game, Fire Tower, is the big feature of it is it has fire gems in it. It's got 135 of these big orange crystals. And people kept complimenting us on them. So we kept adding more and more to our booth. We ended up making a full sign that said Fire Tower in big glittering letters that lights up in the back. That everybody says they literally come up and say, oh, I'm like a moth to a flame because of these glittering gems. We made big fire pits that we light up in the booth, and just anything we can think of to just sort of bring people into the game, get people interested, and then once they're there, they want to learn more. So like, if you think about what makes your game unique, think about why people are drawn to your game, because I think that's something that is harder to learn than you would think. At least for me, when we first started out, I didn't know what it was about our game that was special, and it took a lot of practice and trial and error to figure that out. But the more we knew, the more we could sort of highlight that in our display, highlight that in our demos, and in everything we do. And that really helped us at conventions and brought people in.
And like Phil was saying, like demos are, I think it was Phil was saying this, demos are impossibly important, especially if you have a product that hasn't been proven in some other way where people just want to walk up and walk away with it. Like we've always kind of ridiculously sometimes like undone the booth and redone the floor plan just to squeeze like one more table in. And every time we've gone, it's like, can we get one more until we have everyone packed in where they're shoulder to shoulder? But normally at a convention, especially, people won't necessarily have somewhere to go. A lot of things fill up. So if you have an empty space, people will just kind of slot themselves in a lot of ways just to check something else. Sometimes just to have a place to sit down and like rest for a while. So yeah, as many demos as you can fit if you have the type of game that you can demo easily. Like Fire Tower plays pretty quickly, so it's kind of like a perfect thing. By the time no one's like feeling like, oh, we have to get to our other thing. They finish it before they get to that point. Yeah, sorry, we're just kind of rambling. I don't know if we collected our thoughts perfectly.
I've got a question for you guys. So you're saying about squeezing as many demos into your space, and I love the idea that a full and excitement-filled booth generates more interest. How do you identify who should be sat down for a demo or who just needs a quick elevator pitch? How do you identify that, or do you try and sit everybody down?
So when we first started, we thought everybody had to play the game. And that was a big lesson for us, that you can just do the elevator pitch. So we've kind of just divided up our booth so that people can choose, based on if there's tables available. A lot of times we don't have tables available. I think that no matter how many demos you have, if it's a big enough con, you can often fill them up. And so then you'll have people who are just like, I just need to know what this game is about. And they'll come over and ask you separately. And if they're intrigued, maybe they want to stay for a demo. Maybe they'll just walk away with a copy. That's definitely, we definitely don't select the people ourselves. So I guess we want people to decide that for themselves.
We found though that you don't have to be afraid to ask. If you ask someone like, do you want to sit down? They'll either say yes, or, maybe they'll kind of hedge for a moment and then decide, or they'll just ask for the little 30-second explanation. So we have kind of two tiers. We obviously have the little 4-minute explanation that explains the game, but also just the 30-second explanation just to like send people on their way. So people will kind of self-select if you have them do that. And also it's like even someone who's teaching a game, once a demo is going, that person can also kind of become a hub of information in that area to anyone who's walking around, especially if the demos are on the outside corners.
One thing that's really helped us is to have the people who are teaching the demo, whether that's you or somebody else, to be standing near the table and sort of answering questions, because people like to hover and watch. And like, I think especially if your game is interactive in a way that people can get involved. So Fire Tower is a strategy game. It sounds like a lot of you have more party games. I think for a party game, that's even better because you can have, somebody can listen in on the joke that somebody else is coming up with, or listen to the different creative ideas that come up. I think that's, making it the party that you want, that is the best atmosphere of the game is huge. And you can do that in a convention just the same way you can do it anywhere else.
One of the things that I might add is demos at a convention. There are certain conventions that are all about players sitting down and just playing games. But honestly, the perfect demo for a convention is one that gives you full knowledge of the game quickly, gives you the experience of the game, but isn't necessarily the entire game. And it's probably something where you've already preset certain cards, certain situations, so that they will reliably come up again and again and show what the best parts of the game are. Because the point isn't really just to sit and play the game with people. The point is to educate and excite people who are, want to experience the game, and then move them on so other people can then sit down and have that same experience. In fact, sometimes you'll just do stand-up demos, almost like a cooking show, and that's been very effective with COVID recently, where it's been hands-free demos, and we're just kind of, we'll move the pieces, we'll show you the exciting parts, and that is often enough. As long as you can kind of sink the hook, get them excited, that's a great demo.
Yeah, I concur with all of that. Back in 1994, when we started at Agents of Gaming, we had the Babylon 5 Wars miniatures game, which is this massively complex spaceships pew-pewing at each other. And Jesus, the books were this thick. And how can you possibly attempt to demo something like that at a con? Easy, you make a 30-second version of it. And that's what you want to do with pretty much any game. It doesn't have to be big and complex. If you have a single deck game and you know how to play it, set yourself up a pre-scripted, pre-knowledgeable, here's how I'm going to play this game. And you don't have to play from start to finish. You say, okay, so here, the gameplay goes like this. You sit here, and you're playing an elf, and you're playing a dwarf. Pick up that die and roll something. Oh, you did a thing. You do that for like 2 minutes. That's all it takes. That's all it takes. And after that 2 minutes, you don't have to play that game anymore. You can just say, well, what do you think? There you go. It's all set. What, you like that? Here's a copy right here. Or if it's slow and nobody's around, you can say, you want to keep going? And then you just keep right on playing the game. But like Kurt said, get yourself set to a start point in a game. If it's a board game, miniatures game, that sort of thing. If it's a role-playing game or a module, you have to kind of craft that a little differently, because you have to figure out, how do I condense my adventure, my creations, whatever it is, down into 30 seconds. You'll figure it out. Trust me, the convention schedule will grind you on that, and you'll find that out real soon. I would say even less than elevator pitch. I would say 5 seconds or less. Hey, you want to kill a goblin? What, me? Yeah, you want to kill a goblin? Have a seat. That's all it takes. That's all it takes. Hey, are you having problems at home? I beg your pardon. Here, read this card. I mean, seriously, right? There's all kinds of little things you can do. Are you a Jew? Yeah. Molly, give that man a card. I mean, seriously, that's how it works, right? You gotta. I mean, no offense by that. Molly makes a Jewish card game, so just pay no mind there. But you have to craft this to what your game is about, get down to that core, and then pull right back out again. And that's all it takes. Once you get this, yes, Jewish card revoked. Mine never had one. It's an art, and it takes a lot of practice, and it takes practicing with your friends before the show. It takes going to a show and screwing it up and sounding like an idiot because you said something wrong about your own rules. Don't worry, it'll come. It'll come real easy. If you have a single deck game, carry a deck of those with you everywhere you go. Every minute of the day, be ready to pull that sucker out and say, hey, you guys got 5 minutes? Let me show you something. And then you play a game with complete strangers at the airport or what have you. There's lots and lots of ways to do that at a con. You just have to figure out how to craft that in there. If you start packing people in, though, the other thing you got to worry about is if you've got a 10 by 10 booth, there's a finite capacity for people. And even in a 10 by 20, you gotta plan that out a little bit. So keep an eye on things. You know, a 10 by 20 can't really feasibly be staffed with 2 or 3 games running at the same time with just 2 people. You really got to think about manpower in your booth. You got to schedule it. You got to have dedicated people who are going to be there, who are going to run the games just like you do, who speak from the same script you do, who answer the same questions the same way you do. You'll all get sick and tired of hearing each other saying the same BS over and over and over again for 3 or 4 days. But it works. It works really, really, really well. I'm sure I've got more, but somebody else?
I just wanted to add in because I think that's such a good point about it doesn't have to be the full game. Sam and I have always done it where we do the full game, and we just now are publishing new games where we're realizing that's not the best way to do it for our new game. So we just are starting one that's about coming up with answers to riddles, and with that one we're trying to just sort of give people the 5-second pitch as you were saying, and I think that's really smart. For us, for Fire Tower, because it was a shorter game, it's about 30 minutes. It's worked for us to show the whole game. So I think trying to figure out what works best for your game and also what works best for you. I think different people are at different comfort levels. It took us a really long time to get up the nerve to kind of reach out to people in the aisle. And so that's just, our personalities. I think I'll speak for myself, but I'm a very awkward person. So I like to be approached. But then after a while, I started to get the hang of it. I could reach out to people more easily. So I think that sort of finding the thing that works for you, then everybody will feel it. Everybody will know that you're doing what makes you comfortable, and it'll make them more comfortable, and it'll make the interaction go as smoothly as possible.
You'll notice that got a lot easier because the people at the con are there to be talked to about games.
So totally.
It's not like some rando walked up to you at the Applebee's and started, hey, But even then, if you see a rando wearing a Catan shirt, dude, right? Maybe the guy wants to see your game. Don't ever be afraid, man. Our nerd community knows one when it sees one, and they'll welcome you in. You can show your demos anywhere you go. Demos sell games. I'm telling you, every one of us should have that tattooed on our foreheads. Demos sell games all day, every day.
So I definitely want to come back to look of the booth, essentially the basic feel. But I also want to make sure we get to hear from some other panelists, and I know that we had some questions around logistics. Phil, before we switch up, what we're going to chime in?
Megaphone.
Oh, sorry. I wanted to switch gears here and just mention that I want to make sure we hear from some other folks around logistics, and then we'll come back to the table as well, but just to make sure we cover this part. Someone had asked when to arrive at a con, and I want to actually pair that with which cons to attend. Those aren't particularly related, but when to arrive at a con and which cons to prioritize, since, people here are just starting out, may have often have second jobs or do have, another main job going. So actually, because I know you are ready to chime in, Andrew too, I want to just see if Andrew Zarwitz also can share some of this, just because I know that you've been to an absurd amount of conventions in your time and also have, a lot of setup, to be fair. So Andrew, I guess, take it away.
I'm just going to jump in quickly. The specific question on timing was for Reno. So I think that was Miles.
Oh.
Correct me if I'm wrong. So my answer to that, Miles, is to take a look at the seminar tracks that are there. And if any of them really jump out as being something that you would be desperate to attend, then that is your start point. And I would do at least one day in the exhibit hall. So I think that's the Wednesday is the first day of the exhibit hall. So it may be a Tuesday, Wednesday thing if you're limited to 2 days, and that gives you some seminars and some time in the hall. It is a very, very different trade show between those two things. One is very much peer conversations and learning, and the other one is very much sales oriented and networking. So take a look at the seminar track.
Thank you, Andrew, for that reminder. I didn't realize that. And also, just as a reminder for everybody, about halfway through, and we're going to do it a little more now, about 9 o'clock, we'll switch over to talking about GAMA Expo, actually. So we'll definitely chime in on some details around that. Andrew, you had things about the look of the booth, and I'd also love to hear from you about timing. Like, for example, if there's a 4-day con, is it worth it to go on a Thursday? And do you have particular, PAXs or other, just in general, do you have cons you recommend? And I'm going to add to that also, just not to give you too much to talk about, but add to that also, can you speak to whether you advise people should attend local, smaller cons or regional ones? So go for it.
So that's a lot of kind of complicated questions. As far as the look of the booth, for us, we found being well lit, having bold colors and video were the big things we added to our booth in the last few years that have really
Turn on your megaphone.
I did it earlier and I forgot this time. Is that better? Can everyone hear me now? For us, in terms of the look of our booth, we found that being well lit, having bold colors, and video were the 3 biggest improvements we made to our booth in the last few years that really have had a real payoff in terms of how people respond to it. Logistics is a very complicated question, and I should preface this with saying that while I did this for a very long time, I actually don't do most of the logistics for our company these days. So I'm kind of cheating here, and I kind of do follow what we do. For us, a lot of the logistics is that we're very good about making sure that we planned everything ahead of time. We actually produce logistics documents that contain what hotel we're staying at, what time check-in is, what the hours of setup are, what weird, crazy requirements there are for setup. And every show is going to have its own weird requirements, its own weird union rules. The biggest thing to master setting up for conventions is figuring out how to deal with the union rules, how to deal with your ability to load in and load out, and how to make sure you do that both without getting charged crazy union fees or without having problems or without standing in a 7-hour line waiting to get your car unloaded. I remember for my very first big show, PAX East 2010, the booth next to ours was complaining they had been charged $19,000 because they didn't realize that their truck was 2 feet too long for self-unloading. And the union had offered to help them out with it without pointing out to them there was a $19,000 bill attached to it. This was Cool Mini or Not, actually, back when they were a very small company selling 6 kinds of minis. So, read, especially when you're just starting doing this, the most valuable thing you can do is that every show will give you a decorator packet. Read it thoroughly, especially read the sections on material handling. Material handling is lifeblood of the convention. And remember, and also make sure you know what you're getting, if anything. Don't show up assuming you're getting tables and chairs and then find out you get nothing. The vast majority of shows will give you a table, 2 chairs, and a wastebasket for every 10 by 10, but nothing else. Electricity is never free. Wi-Fi is almost never free. Internet is often of dubious quality. Using cell phones for everything is maybe the best answer, but it depends a lot on your setup. That's a very good question.
What's Scary Monster?
The best thing to do is to make sure you are driving a vehicle that is allowed by that convention center to self-unload. At most convention centers, this includes U-Hauls. U-Hauls you can unload yourself, up to a 14-foot U-Haul, but no bigger than that. At some convention centers like New York City, you cannot unload any vehicle that is bigger than a cargo van. And at some conventions, you can't even unload a cargo van yourself, nothing larger than a minivan. But generally speaking, with a U-Haul and with your own handcart, you are probably fine. As long as it's the 14-foot U-Haul or smaller. Sometimes maybe in some conventions it's 16-foot or smaller.
It's always good to have a kit, a con kit, a tackle box or a box or something that's got all your stuff in it, including a copy of your documents for that show, duct tape, zip ties, razor knives. No, you're not doing a kidnapping, but these are things you're going to use a lot in your booth. Zip ties and duct tape are your friends in any convention booth, any day. Extension cords, Sharpies.
Yeah, I'd agree 100% with Phil on that. All of those things. make sure you've got kind of the sort of standard stuff. We also pack a first aid kit because honestly, if you do this long enough, you're going to hurt yourself in a myriad of stupid ways.
I have the scars to show.
And yeah, make sure you understand the tax rules in the venue you're in and in the state you're in, and make sure you're complying with them. If you're doing only B2B shows like GAMA, you don't have to worry as much about that because B2B shows are generally exempt from sales taxes, I should say. But B2C shows are almost never, and in most states, it is your responsibility to figure this out, not the conventions. They will often tell you the rules and tell you who to contact about it, but frankly, they don't usually care because at the end of the day, it doesn't fall on them unless you're in Rhode Island, California, or Washington, or like 3 other states. It falls on your responsibility and not their responsibility. Does that answer the question you had, Molly?
Yeah, that was a great overview. You covered a lot of things. Thank you. And I'm going to say Andrew, Gwen and Sam, Kurt, others who have run publisher tables. Can you name at least a top 5?
Packs.
Yeah.
It was only
exactly.
4 Paxes now. So here's the thing.
Andrew, just say the full names of those, just in case people don't really do it.
Sorry,
yeah.
PAX is the Penny Arcade Expo, although nobody ever calls it that. People only call it PAX. It's a big show run by ReadPop, which is a big convention running company. And it is, in terms of acquisition for people who are peripheral to the tabletop gaming world, which is to say, if you're not looking at like core hobby gamers who maybe do Gen Con as their main show, it is the single best series of shows in the United States. PAX Unplugged is the board game focused one in Philadelphia. PAX East and PAX West are video game focused, but with large board game areas, and that's in Seattle and Boston. And then PAX Australia is in Australia, which is obviously a long way away. Beyond that, the real question you have to ask yourself is, who is your core audience? If your core audience is more core gamers, Origins, Gen Con, and the other kind of bigger gaming shows are going to be your best targets. If, on the other hand, your core audience is more acquisition focused, if it's more casual party games, you're probably going to see a better return from the large anime shows, Otakon, Anime Expo, and the large Comic-Cons like New York Comic-Con, and if you can somehow get into it, which you probably can't, San Diego Comic-Con. PAX East is awesome. If any of you are local in the area, even if you don't have a booth, I heartily recommend stopping by and taking a look at it. There is something special about the attendees at PAX shows and how much they care about their show and how they have an energy that is unlike any other show I've gone to in the United States. And they manage to do this consistently year after year and location after location.
PAX has consistently from day one been darn near a 50-50 male-female attendee split, which is absolutely unheard of in the world of conventions. They've also, since day one, been very inclusive, very welcoming, very opening. They've hit it on all cylinders from the very beginning. If you can get into one, again, they aren't easy to get into. They do curate East and West really, really tightly. There's a lot of money to be made there. I will say, though, that you really want to get to know intimately any local cons to you. Any gathering that is an organized convention of, say, 500 people or more, you need to be there. Doesn't matter what you're doing, doesn't matter what your game is. If it's within a 500-mile driving radius and you feel comfortable getting there, do so. And that's Comic Cons, anime cons. If you're just starting out with your one game, hit every single one of them. It's just like a band hitting the bar beat. You got to get out there, put in the miles, put in the hours. It pays off. It really, really, really pays off because you start sending copies out there into the world, and people come back looking for them at the next show. Oh, I saw you at Adepticon, or I saw you over at UConn, like somebody said in Michigan. It doesn't matter. If you can get to those, get to them. It's great practice. It's great sales. They tend to be a lot smaller, so you have a more intimate crowd. So you can spend more time playing the lengthy games or play a full game back and forth. Don't be shy, man. Get out there every single weekend if you can. If you can do 15, 20 shows a year, do it. It'll pay off in droves later.
I just wanted to add that if you want to go to PAX and you can't get a booth there or it's out of your budget, there are different options like Unpub, which often has a room that's some of you may have heard of it. It's a program for people who want to play test their games, but it's also a really great way to show your new game. There's also other networking people who might let you split up a booth. We went with, or we didn't go with, but we almost went with Play NYC one year because they were offering like little tables at a booth, or even just being part of the free play area and showing your game there is a great way to get exposure if that convention allows it. So you don't have to get a booth at a show to show your game there.
That's a really good point. I'm going to jump in actually. So Chip Theory Games is pretty sizable at this point. And we have always kind of like had overstated booths. Back in the early days of Chip Theory, where they were selling on the Skywalk at Gen Con about 9 years ago, they moved on to actually invest very heavily into, I think they spent about $15,000 or $18,000 on the booth, which again it's kind of a posturing thing with the brand and everything, but that is paid off in spades over the years. But even now we decide if we can't get to, I think it was PAX East was the one we paid Devon. I don't know if Devon's here. I don't think he's made it tonight, but we paid Night Moves Cafe, who are in the Boston area, to have a section of their booth and for our games to be present with them. I think it was $500 or $600. They have an 8-hour slot dedicated with demoing our game, and they sell our game throughout the weekend. So you can get a presence at even the biggest conventions without being there yourself. So I think it probably would have cost us somewhere in the region of $10,000 to $12,000 first time, and we just didn't have the manpower at that point. But we did want to be there. We did want to see if it was worthwhile going, and it was great. So. Yeah, it's not an easy answer. Everybody wants the definitive list of how you do everything, but there was always a way of being somewhere if you look hard enough. So we'll share a whole bunch, and if anybody's got any other companies that do a similar thing, almost like a consolidator but for conventions, we'll probably try and publish those or put them in the chat at some point tonight as well. So Molly's put some stuff in the chat. Booth essentials and bare minimums for setup and a booth and a table. So let's go back to Gwen and Sam. So Gwen, you guys have obviously been doing conventions for a couple of years at this point. What did your first booth look like? And how did you decide on how much money you spent when you first kind of put your toe in the water?
So when we first started out, we actually did do a lot of it through Unpub. So it wasn't a booth, but our first experience with conventions was, whatever table we could get our hands on, whether that was through Unpub. A lot of our friends have used Night Moves as well, which is great. Being in the free play area or things like that. But when we first got a booth, I think we fit 2 demo tables to play 2 games. And that was pretty much it. We wanted to just play with people as much as possible and work on having, different displays that would bring people in. But really our main focus was just a demo. At that point, I don't even think we had games to sell. So playing was our only goal.
And growing the mailing list and whatnot for them. But, that's working towards the Kickstarter. I mean, yeah, it's true. Even something like a Gen Con, we applied for a few years and didn't get in. And then we just ran events there. And that's another great thing. Running events at conventions, people will just sign up. And we put our game on every event we had. People showed up. We played with them. And we had friends who were running a booth who allowed us to sell our game out of their booth in exchange for us working some hours. So even as you guys were saying before, at some of the largest conventions, you can still find a way in to engage with the gaming public.
I think Sam also mentioned a really good point. If you're not selling games yet, the mailing list for us was everything. That was kind of our currency. So we would show people a game or talk to people about the game and then just try to get them on our mailing list. So if at the bare minimum you have an iPad or even a sign-up sheet, whatever you could do, I highly recommend having people type it in because we quickly realized about 30% of our mailing list entries were unreadable. But anything you can do to get people to take action so that they can find out about your games in the future is huge.
It's true. And some of those local cons too, you can end up getting a table. Like one of the ones we went to was a 4-day con. I think it was only about 1,000 people, but it was $100 to show for the weekend. So you can find, if you're lucky, like a gem near you locally that will allow you like little danger, but allow you quite a bit of exposure.
One of the things that you can do, even if you just have a table for a demo, is if you get a branded tablecloth or something that has your game's logo, and you've got one of those pull-up banners that runs about 7 feet high, that gives you a lot of presence and a professional look as you show your game. If that is the bare minimum that you run with, you're already going to be head and shoulder above people who have not gone to that step. You're going to look like an entity, and that's important. But then once you get a little bit beyond that, they make almost like graphic socks that you can put around a frame structure that makes a very small graphic wall that it is. It's a couple $100 to actually create one of those, but that is something that will last a very long time and really has a professional look. Now, the one thing, I know we're about to start talking about GAMA Trade Show as well. The demo tables, I recommend actually using stand-up cocktail tables because retailers and distributors are not going to sit in the booth and play a full demo. Really just want to set the game up, give people kind of a pitch as they walk up to your booth. And a stand-up cocktail table is the perfect way to do that. Ideally draped with with a tablecloth for just make it look nice. By the way, you can rent those from the convention services, or you can save yourself half the money and bring an outside party, like a party rental place in that town also has those for rent, and will drive them over to the convention hall. So that is another way to save some money on those tables.
Yeah, a good rule of thumb and a good rule in every single booth I've ever sold at is no bare tables. Period. It doesn't matter whether the hall allows you to have bare tables or not. You should never see bare tables in your booth. You should also never see raw cardboard in your booth. If you have stacks of boxes, drape that with something. Go to a thrift store if you're out of town and buy a bed sheet, put over it if you have to. But do not expose raw cardboard to your customers or unskirted tables. If it comes with a skirt, like Gen Con Origins usually does, that's no problem. You're covered. Always carry a couple of big old tablecloths with you, just in case you got to cover an 8-foot banquet table to hide everything underneath. It's a massive, massive difference, and I won't work a booth without covered tables. Good thing to remember.
I have a source for the absolute dirt cheapest tablecloths and stretch banners on the planet. If anybody needs it, if you send me a message or send me an email or whatever, I can send you the information for them. We spent about for PAX Unplugged, we ended up ordering new stretch banners. We got 4 of the full 10-foot walls and a dozen tablecloths for $1,500, which is crazy cheap for this stuff. Truly the cheapest place. They are in China, so if you need it for GAMA, you'll have to. There's plenty of time. They ship super quickly, so that you actually have plenty of time even with Chinese New Year. But yeah, I'd be happy to sort of send over that information to you and help you out there.
All right, excellent stuff. I think we'll change gears ever so slightly and focus a bit more on the expo. Amy has got a question. I think John Stacey is probably the best one to grab that. If you're still here, John, Amy's asking about the publisher fellows being allowed to use the demo tables at certain points. So I don't know if there's a spare space we can squeeze them in, if not before time, but alongside everybody else. So I will let the staff take hold of that question. So if there's anybody that's been to multiple GAMA trade shows, so funnily enough, the last time I was there as an exhibitor was 6 or 7 years ago with Hawk Raw Games. And we had a small 10 by 10 area. We had a table with all the components of the game out, nice tablecloth, and a big back banner. Just as Andrew was saying, a big stretch banner is usually your best friend. The quality of the printing on cloth and stretch cloth over an aluminium frame or aluminum frame for the people that are listening to this is pretty super high quality now. They don't always run cheap, and I know I'm going to talk to the fellows about Chip Theory helping out and getting some of those, making sure we got them in time for the expo. But they really are worth every penny because they do break down into almost like a travel size kit bag that you can throw into the back of your car. They are the perfect thing if you want to go to those trade shows and conventions within 500 miles. It's absolutely the thing you have to have. There is nothing worse than turning up and having product on a table and no signage whatsoever. It's very easy to pass you by. So I do, and I know we spoke about this at length a couple of weeks back, but what your booth looks like from 30 feet away is almost as important, if not more important, than what it looks like up close. Because at that point, you're selling them the actual game itself, whereas they still need to get to you. So if there's anybody here, Kurt or Phil or Andrew again, if anybody who has had a booth at the expo, if you want to talk about what it is that you keep. I know there's a very different line of thinking in terms of like minimalism and just showcasing IP at that point. So if you want to talk about that, that'd be great.
I find serving bacon works best.
That is true. How many years now?
That was very tasty plague-filled bacon, Phil.
Plague-filled bacon. Oh, yeah, March of 2020, for those who don't know, the last GAMA Expo. Fun fact, it was the last trade show in the United States before everyone locked down. We were all flying out on Friday the 13th, which was the second day of the California 6-county lockdown that started it all. Good times. And there I was for 2 days handing out 15 pans, 10 pounds each of slabs of bacon, and just handed people bacon on plate. You want some bacon? You have some bacon. Bacon for you. Everybody gets bacon. Man, I'll tell you, nothing draws people to your booth better than hot, fresh bacon. I would not recommend doing that in plague times. That's a liability just waiting to happen, and I'm astonished that we got away with it, quite frankly. But a gimme is something kind of fun to have at the booth if you're going to give something away, a promo card or a chocolate bar. Don Reitz from Chessex give away these full-size Swiss chocolate bars. Remember, if you're exhibiting at GAMA Expo, you're not selling anything except to stores. It's not a consumer show. The only people allowed in the door are retailers and people who are going to be buying from that level. So you have to craft your message a little bit differently. These aren't end consumers, they're game stores. And some of the game store owners don't want to know about your game. They want to know how to buy your game. You can teach it to many of them, and most of them want to learn something. But a lot of guys are like, man, I got to see everything in this hall in 4 hours. So show me your catalog, and maybe I'll place an order, that kind of thing. You got to act really, really fast because our time in the hall is very limited with those folks. So you got to polish your message even more. I'm sure I got more. Kurt, what do you got?
So one of the things that I often do is I have a little bit of a gift bag. Now, sometimes that is going to have some kind of a promo item. It could have a little piece of candy in there as well. But importantly, what it has is information about my company and my game. And as retailers and other folks walk by, even the press, sometimes they have time for you and sometimes they don't. And that's okay. But if they're going to walk on by, just at least greet them and hand them something. And at the very least, they're going to take it and walk away with information that they may read later. At the best, you can use that because it'll pause them and they'll say, where am I? And what are you? Oh, what is this that we're looking at? So, anything that you can do to start that conversation, or at least, get the information about your game out, even just by handing them something, is going to be a benefit. And those kind of like little tiny leaflets you can do at Staples, and they're very inexpensive to do, and it's very worthwhile to do. But again, really, the focus of your booth, if you've got the backdrop to draw draw eyes, that's great. If you've got your table, your games set up on cocktail tables, terrific. People can actually see the components. And if you've got, anywhere from a 30-second, a minute, a 5-minute overview, and you should have each one of those, that's the kind of attention span people are going to have. So be ready for all of those instances. Now, the good thing about the show is that once you have made relationships, people will actually come by your booth. Retailers will say, hey, you know what? I've really been, really been happy with this product, or I had some questions. Someone came in, let me ask you this question. There is time during these shows to actually build those relationships. That'll happen both on the floor as well as off the floor. But it is different than a consumer show. So take advantage of all of those things.
I want to try. Oh, go ahead, Andrew.
I was just going to call on Amy, actually, because I know Amy's done a postcard size flyer for a business. I just wondered what it was that triggered that in the first place, and if you had something you could share with the room.
Hi. Yeah, the reason why I made a postcard is because I was doing, and I have been doing, things like pop-ups at game stores and at boutiques and at holiday markets and things like that. So I wanted to make sure I had something that someone could walk away with. And some people like to take them even when they buy games. They want a postcard as well, so they can, remember me and, follow me and things like that. So on my postcard, I don't have any within reach. Usually do. It just has a little bit of information about me and where to connect. So that's why I've needed them. And on Pink Tiger Games on my Instagram, you can see my table set up for my holiday markets that I've done. If you're interested in that, I'll drop it in the chat.
Thanks, Amy. That's a good idea to have something to hand out that way. And I'll just also mention, always have order forms if you're planning to take orders at GAMA. That's a big difference, right, between GAMA and just a regular consumer-facing convention. I think Miles and then Phil, Andrew, you've been over time. We have a few retailers here. Retailers were previous brick and mortar retailers, and so you can chime in on what I'm about to say. But basically, I think it's a good idea. I don't think it's necessary, but it's a good idea to offer retailers. I mean, you're probably not going to say no to this. To offer a discount at the show. I don't make it a huge one, but just to give a reason to order there. Because they're seeing so many companies, dozens, if not more companies, they're seeing, possibly, several dozen, but even over 100 games in the show. So not having to follow up later is a big deal. I didn't take a ton of orders last time was December or March 2020, but it is helpful because I'm going to individually call or email or both any retailer whose card I take, and it's just a little less to do later. So I do like to offer an incentive to order at the show. And then I wanted to piggyback on what Kurt's saying. You really need so little information when you share about a game. High level overview, and then if it's a really complex strategy game, sure, maybe you can get into some, kind of simple explanation of how it works. But remember, the hall of GAMA Expo isn't massive like, PAX East or Gen Con. Those shows are amazing and crowded and overwhelming. But GAMA Expo is still a lot to get through because there aren't very many exhibit hall hours. And so I'm not saying you want to rush, but you do really want to talk to as many retailers as possible, and they possibly are trying to walk the whole hall. So it's actually to both of your benefit if you do a minute or less pitch for a given game. And then I mentioned order forms. Having the order form, having all of the MSRPs, the suggested retail price, as well as the wholesale price is really important. And then, of course, this isn't my strong point, but I'd say visually, don't be afraid to still be to be creative and fun. Since one of our main games has a picture of a penguin with a jetpack on it, I still keep, inflatable jetpacks around the booth. Sometimes I wear one. So don't be afraid to be your unique self at your booth too. So those are the things about retail. And I would just say, I wanted to respond to Miles. Miles, you've been incredibly patient. I know that a lot of tonight about conventions was to do with publishers more than retailers. And I wanted to also get to your question. I really think, thanks for being here especially as a retailer. I really think that it's important, in my opinion, to get there on a Sunday, because life can just start getting so packed by Monday. By about Monday around lunch, you're already full on networking. And that way you can ease in a little more. It's not like there will be plenty of people, I'm sure, arriving on Monday. And I know it's an extra hotel night, it's an extra day of travel. But since Reno is such a pain to get to, and God willing, we will probably we might switch locations at some point. But since it's hard to get to Reno, that's another reason just to have your time for traveling on Sunday, unless you're lucky enough to, live out west near Reno. You do? Okay, cool. So that's what I recommend.
To help you get into Reno, even if you're on the West Coast.
There you go. Yeah. And I also recommend not leaving till at least Thursday night, because I could say Thursday night had some great networking too. But one of the main points that I can just never emphasize enough is that so much business at GAMA is not at the expo hall. It's really, we've talked about this at a session with fellows recently, and I wanted to make sure that, so some of the fellows have heard this, but I want to make sure it was covered for Rising Stars too, that so much of the GAMA business happens late at night at a particular white couch near a bar or just at the bar, and that's where you meet a lot of people. You meet people at the Edge nightclub, which is not as nightclubby as it sounds. And so much of what you're going to discover is that people they might have a minute or a few minutes at the table, but they'll have a half hour, an hour to chat at night, because we're all going to be up late anyway. People are very relaxed. They all grab drinks together. Non-alcoholic is fine. Don't feel pressure to drink. And it just is incredibly, incredibly warm and welcoming group. You do have to be pretty social and sometimes kind of you have to dive in a little bit if you don't know so many people. And it helps to spot publishers, so if you look around the room for people with cameras on, like now we're all each other's network and we can invite each other into groups. So that's what I wanted to add. And also I do want to give Miles a moment just to ask any questions in particular from a retailer perspective, because I know this has been heavily publisher focused. Do you have anything else you're wondering about GAMA Expo in particular, Miles?
Yeah, I guess one thing I was wondering is there a link anywhere to what the specific seminars are each day? Just
megaphone, Miles, please.
Oh,
sorry.
Thank you. I'm curious if there's a link to a specific schedule of what the seminars are. If I go look at the GAMA Expo page, it does list 2 to 6 p.m. industry seminars and workshops, but more I was wondering if any of those have been nailed down, and could I see what those are going to be at the moment.
And I can address that. We're actually finalizing that. The goal is to have it done by end of this month.
Okay.
We're really waiting on the GRD with the GAMA Retail Division, who are taking the lead on organizing the retail seminars. And they've got 72 hours of seminars that they're organizing over the 3 days. And so we're still waiting to get that from them. It should be up probably by the week of the 24th is what we're shooting for.
Okay.
And you can find that on the main page for the GAMA Expo.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I guess that was going to drive some of it. If there were certain seminars that were early in the convention that I felt like would be really valuable to me as a new business owner, but, maybe other ones that maybe that's experience I already have and I don't need to necessarily sit in that one, that kind of thing. So
actually, it kicks off on Monday morning at 10 a.m. There's a new retailer orientation that's 2 hours for members who are new to GAMA, but also new to the industry as well. And there's a track on the first day that they're putting together.
Gotcha.
And also we have a kickoff luncheon at noon on Monday for 2 hours, and then it's back into seminars from 2 to 6. So it's a very packed full day on Monday.
Gotcha. Okay. I think that was mainly what I needed. I feel like maybe just not having been before, I don't even necessarily know what questions to ask. So I'm just excited to go. So thank you.
Traditionally, when we're at a show like that, especially in Reno, we gather in the round bar, and you'll know why, because it's a giant round bar, or just outside it, and everyone screams a volume 11 from 6 p.m. until 2 in the morning. But more business gets done there than at any other time of the show. It really does. It's worth the price of admission to do that. Thursday is the second day of the hall. If you can see everything in one day on Wednesday, great, do it. But if you can afford to be out for all 4 days, Monday through Thursday, man, do it. It's an experience, and you should do it soup to nuts at least once so you can see what it's all about. And being a newer guy, you're going to get a lot of benefit out of it. Everything you're there for, you're going to come home and use in some way. It's well worth it to stay as long as you possibly can.
One of the things
I was going to say, I would definitely agree with Phil that more business is done in the Circle Bar and in the sort of surrounding areas. And who knows what this year is going to be like. 2021 and 2022 is going to be an extraordinarily weird year for this event. but definitely a lot of the business and a lot of the benefit from GAMA is getting FaceTime with people in the industry that you work with or want to work with, or have products you want to see, or if you're a publisher, retailers, do you want to have carry your product? And just spending time interacting with them and becoming close to them. One of the things I take advantage of that, every time you, thanks, Phil. Yes, that's going to be pretty funny to mask stream in Round Bar. One of the things I try to do is that every time I eat a meal at GAMA, I try to find different people to eat with. And I always try to strike up a conversation and find out what they do, where they're from, what challenges their store has faced, or what interesting things they've discovered as a publisher. Because this is your chance to network with people you know. It's extraordinarily easy to talk to on the internet, and it's extraordinarily easy to interact with regularly. It's the people you don't get that opportunity that GAMA is an opportunity to meet, network, interact, do business with.
Yeah, I would also offer that there is a distinct difference between the exhibit hall on Wednesday and Thursday. Wednesday, retailers are basically using that day to try to see as much as they can, run down the hallways, get the information they really want on the hot games that catch their eye. And then Thursday is when they take that time to actually go and talk with publishers, find out more, talk about problems, have more industry-related conversations. It's a little bit more relaxed somehow on Thursday, and conversations tend to be just a little bit deeper. Yeah, and I think too the demo nights are very important. One, they're fun, but also I think they're very informative. A lot of time, those demos are also set up to be fairly short. They're not supposed to be full run demos, but in about 10-15 minutes, you actually gain an appreciation for the game that you saw that afternoon and thought, gee, maybe that would sell pretty well. There you actually get a real taste for it. And you're like, I know exactly the customers in my store who are going to dig this. And it really makes your ability to sell the game even that more powerful. So those are some of the things. And I think too, the seminar tracks, even if, and I'll say this to the publishers, even if you think that, there's maybe something not on the publisher track that you want to hear, go and take a listen to the retailer tracks as well, because understanding all sides of the business, it's very easy to get myopic on, what your goals are, but understanding what retailers' goals are and what they struggle with will help you better help them sell your games as well.
Yeah, you got to remember that everybody in that room everybody at that show is there to meet everybody else at that show. So don't be shy. Walk right up. Hi, who are you with? And you'd be amazed. We're all there to do that exact thing. So don't be shy.
John, did you want to say something? No, go for it, Andrew.
Yeah, sorry, I did actually.
Go on, John.
I was just going to comment. There was a question earlier about the demo nights.
Yeah.
I'm talking to our team so we can actually get you guys demo nights as well, tables for one of the nights. I think 2 of the nights are sold out already, but if I could find time to squeeze you guys in on one of the nights, I'm definitely going to do that for you guys.
And to Amy's question, yes, vaccinations are required, and it's a fully masked event, I do believe.
That is correct. So it's vaccinated or negative PCR test within 72 hours before the start of the show. And we will check those on the first day when you come to register.
Perfect. So I wanted to jump in with 2 things that kind of tie a few of the comments in together. One for publishers and one actually for retailers. On the publisher side, and anybody that has a booth when they're trying to sell something, and this might sound obvious, but it is way more kind of like in your face when you're at a B2B show, is you are selling yourself. Usually 9 times out of 10 or 99 times out of 100, you're not going to actually sell physical products. People aren't going to walk away from your booth with a carton of games because most people don't take them there for people to sell. They are buying into you and your company and your IP and how you sell it and how you want to sell it. So the look of your booth says something about you, and how you interact with each person and each retailer, each customer is going to say a lot about it. So anything that you can make that a positive, memorable experience is going to give you far more of a positive financial and business benefit after the fact. And that's kind of like why it isn't all done in one specific. You don't give an elevator pitch and then take an order. It's, you introduce yourself, you give them the elevator pitch and say about why you started the company, and then maybe you'll see them again in the bar afterwards and say, hey, perhaps I should show you the unicorn game, or I should show you this, or I should show you that. And you're developing. That's exactly what the networking aspect is. You're developing that relationship. And as a couple of people have said, it is far easier to talk to somebody through email or on Skype or on Facebook if you have had that physical face-to-face, masked or not, interaction with them, and you're taking a positive experience away from that. That is huge, having a positive reinforcement from it. Go on, Molly.
No, it's okay. I wasn't trying to interrupt. Go for it.
No, and the other one for the retailer's perspective, and I think this is kind of the core of what Miles is asking about, why the days are there. It's as a retailer, you should really have a very clear idea of what your business wants you to get from attending the GAMA Expo. So are you going to learn core principles of business? Are you going to network with peers to learn what the hot game is? Or are you going to buy the correct stock for the rest of that year and make sure you know what to buy for the winter? Because there is very different parts of the expo that will give you those things. If you go there not having an idea of that, you'll be just overwhelmed with information and overwhelmed with people to talk to. But if you're very clear of, well, I have a budget and I want to buy into the right games and you want to do this, then you can be very clear as you're walking around the hall, almost what to dismiss the first time round before you've achieved your goals, and then kind of do all the schmoozing afterwards. But having an idea about that and your business, which is very personal to you, but thinking about it before you go is important.
One thing I would add to any exhibitor, whether it be GAMA Expo, whether it be PAX Unplugged, all the way down to your local cons, get matching shirts. It's not optional. It's absolutely mandatory. Get something that identifies everyone who works for your company as someone who works at your company. We ran a shirt company for years and years and printed these for tons and tons of people. It doesn't have to be anything complicated. You can get a polo with a logo embroidery. You can get a black T-shirt with white ink on it. It just has your company one color logo on it. But you must wear those, and you must wear those at all times. Even at the bar, even after hours, it identifies you. It's just a gigantic flag. Hi, I'm with JBM Press, and someone will walk up and go, "Hey, I've been looking for your company. I missed you in the hall." It's not optional. Get yourself into some company uniforms. Every person who's going to work for you needs to wear one. Anybody who's going to work in the booth needs to wear one, so you don't confuse other folks. You work here, whatever. You never want to hear that in the booth. So dress properly.
Sorry, just to interrupt for a moment with something that is possibly relevant to publishers who are here. New York Toy Fair just canceled. For people who are here, that means that it's likely that there's going to be more people looking for more casual and toy games at GAMA, but also it's definitely going to lead to the tenor of trade shows this year, I think, for the industry. And that's
that doesn't bode well at all for anything upcoming in the spring. Yeah, oh, geez.
I hear that. I'm gonna. Or Andrew, was there anything else, or are you good?
That was it.
Okay, thanks. We have about 5 minutes left, about 4 minutes left. I want to share a few more things related to networking, and then actually want to just see if Sam and Gwen, you had any lessons you wanted to share from your first one, since I know you went to GAMA 2020 is your first one, an unusual show, and then we'll wrap up shortly. So, just wanted to mention a few quick notes. Never underestimate the power of the 10 p.m. to 2 a.m. hour. Andrew and I actually met in 2018, which is crazy to think about. Well, our friendiversary is coming up, and we met at GAMA at the Edge nightclub because I went in and chatted with retailers there. It was a retailer event. I just went to the end of it and met a group of retailers, and they liked our first game, Wing It, and Andrew got called out of bed to come look at it. And like some of those people 4 years later are still friends. Andrew is an advisor, informally, but like you'll be surprised at how many people you'll meet at night who become, really, really supportive and helpful to your business and even friends. And basically, if you're a publisher, that could be retailers. If you're a retailer, that could be publishers, So that's one thing I wanted to share. And also that late at night, I remember, I've told this story before, but not everybody, a lot of people weren't here. Late at night, I was, I think, demoing with a South African retailer. And then 5 months later, he sent his distributor from South Africa to meet with me at my booth at Gen Con. So because of something that happened at GAMA late at night, that I ended up getting into distribution in South Africa. So that's really a time you meet people. And as far as networking, definitely recommend reaching out to local stores to see if you can get help with staffing your table. That's for both GAMA Expo and for conventions. And also recommend borrowing tables from stores. That's a free and easy way, as long as you can rent, a pickup truck or whatever, rent a truck. That could be cheaper than buying two, and then you're not left with a table. So I borrowed stores tables a few times. So yeah, and actually, Gwen and Sam, I'd love to hear if there's just in the last couple of minutes here, if there's anything that you wanted to share from your experience being at a first GAMA 2 years ago.
Yeah, just the same thing you said, Molly. I don't know, it was one of the first conventions where we really got to solidify relationships with other people in the industry and spend time with them, because I wasn't just constantly demoing Fire Tower for 4 days straight and barely having a chance to really talk to anyone. So much of that, and getting to meet retailers and actually like seeing what their needs are, and what they want from us, and what we should be, presenting to them. Also, I mean, we had a secret power, is that we talked to you, Molly. So you gave us all the tips imaginable. So we came in like well stocked with a lot of information. But yeah, just in between our first Kickstarter and our second Kickstarter, going to GAMA just opened up so many more retailers coming in. We were able to talk to them about our upcoming Kickstarter while we were there, while we were also selling the base game. So yeah, it was really transformational in regards to getting our games into stores.
And in terms of going, I think, we've been going to conventions at that point for a long time. We had a lot of relationships with other people who were in our exact same position, people who were starting out, new designers and publishers, and also consumers, but we really hadn't seen the other sides of the industry. So that was just huge. Like Kurt was saying before, being able to go to these seminars that weren't even necessarily meant for you, but just to see how everything works, because for us, that was very eye-opening.
Amy's got a question in the chat about the tables for the booth. So the booth space has been upped from an 8-foot wide to a 10-foot wide, so it's 10 by 10 now, which is great. It does come with one table and 2 chairs and a waste paper basket and curtain drape. But I think Amy and Federico have already reached out to me. Dion and Desiree and Kurt, if you could get Richard to reach out, we'll basically look at the 2 links. So we'll use Andrew's link and the Tenfu exhibits one, and we'll talk about what kind of back banners and things we can get for your space, or whether or not it's tablecloths, or whether you want something crazy that I don't know about at this point, and we'll help make sure we have those for you for the expo this year. Miles, let's make sure that we get you some shirts or something for the retail store there as well.
He actually left, but I can.
Did he leave? I will reach out to him again. But we'll make sure the retailers have got some things to identify them as well at expo this year. So
sounds good. Well, it's 9:31. I would just say that I know a few of us are going to stick around a little after, and I wanted to just tell everybody thanks for coming. I hope this was helpful. We will be doing another session in about 2 weeks. I'm not sure which day yet, but about 2 weeks on accounting for both publishers and for retailers. We might actually break into 2 separate groups. And there will be at least 2 more sessions in February as well. And just keep in mind that all coaches and mentors are welcome to any of the sessions. So if you just want to come and listen in, have it on in the background, or just ask questions even, you're totally welcome to do so. And also, I just wanted to do a shout out to Eric. Thank you for coming. I unfortunately didn't get to be part of our intros in the beginning, but wanted to say I'm glad you made it. And we definitely want to get to see you another time as well. So yeah, GAMA Expo is amazing. Highly recommend it if you haven't looked into it yet. It's the expo. I know the expo hall now has a wait list, but if you haven't signed up yet, worth going. And then if you want to ask anybody here who spoke, I'm going to just say that all of us have offered to be in touch by email. So feel free to email us if you just have questions about conventions to attend. And if you want to, get in on sharing a booth together, I can definitely recommend people to do that with. So just in general, feel free to reach out. We're always resources. And a special thanks to people who were panelists tonight. Gwen, Sam, Phil, you stepped in a lot, and Kurt and Andrew for stepping in last minute. Thank you so much, and Andrew. So yeah, thanks for being here, y'all. That's about a wrap. So yeah, appreciate you all coming, and hopefully we'll catch you at another session.